Guys, so this is the video I'm gonna try and whip off to show how to repair this guy. This one's already repaired, but I'm gonna take it apart again and go through the steps. When I first got this truck, this mirror would not fold, but it would click, and I could feel it wanting to try, so I figured something was seized up. Anyways, I'll take you through it. I'm gonna lay out what tools you're gonna need. Okay, so here's what we're gonna need. No particular order, but you're gonna need a flat screwdriver or a pry tool. You're gonna need a Torx 10 and a Torx 20. Pair of needle nose pliers, and you're gonna need some WD-40 and some silicone or some lubricant. I use this, but I also use fluid film as well. And you're going to want to have a vise if yours is anything like mine. Oh, and you're going to need a 24 mil socket. And I'll get to that, but 24 mil socket. Other than that, we'll go start to pull the mirror off. The first thing you're going to want to do is you're going to want to come over here and you want to put your screwdriver in here and pop this, and then up and around here, and it will just pop out. Obviously mine's going to pop out a little bit easier since I've more recently had it off. You basically pull this out. The only wire that's connected is this right here, and this is your puddle light. So we're gonna just twist that. Oops. Yeah. Pull that out and set this off to the side. So a couple things. Once this is out, I forgot one more tool now that I'm in here. You're going to need a punch to punch these out eventually. I'm going to go ahead and disconnect this. Let's set this up here. Maybe I'm going to disconnect it. Okay, well, I didn't disconnect it the first time, so I'm not going to disconnect it this time, I guess. So I'm going to try and show you up in here. I'll grab my screwdriver. You're looking for this little tab right here. Get that to focus. And what this is the release for the mirror. So the mirror, I'll show it better when I pull it out, but there's little half moon, and they're just keys. But before we do that, what I want you to do is I want you to grab your needle nose pliers. And it's very important, but if you see these two wires here, they are for your defrost, and on that board they're very fragile. So I'm gonna do this here. I'm not sure how this is gonna come out, but we'll try it. No. And what I did was I actually put a finger down on here. So I'm gonna do it. You won't really see it. Put a finger here and a finger here, and then just use these to pull off. Here, now it's pulling off. So that's disconnected. Then there's this plug here. You don't necessarily need to worry about this plug right now. You can pull it off later. But again, it just slides down, and it's keyed, so you don't really need to pay attention, so to speak. A couple things I'll go over while I'm in here. This is your motor power right here, this guy. And your motor's underneath there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually open the mirror now, even though mine's working, but and I'm gonna put this on here, and I'm gonna twist, and you see how it's popped up. I'm gonna go around to the front. You see my screwdriver going in there, and I'm just gonna kind of pry up gently. Now that mirror is off. Really sorry for this shaky camera here. So now that mirror is off, and what we've got, this is your blinker, this is your defrost. These are those little half moons right here. So they have little keys on them right here that everything slides down into. So the next step is, you see those Torx screws, and these are the Torx 10s. So you want to take these off. So I'll go ahead and spin these out. There's 4 of them. There's one there, and then there is one here and one here. And this is the motor that the power motor for angling and you know, going out and in and up and down. So we're gonna take this off. Okay, now that we've got that off, see this little plug down in here. This is the power to this motor. There's 2 little clips on the side. I don't know if you can see that. There's a little locking pin here, sorry, and there's a locking pin here. So you just got to push them over and then pull this out. And there you go. So you get that out, and again, that wiring harness is keyed, so you don't need to really worry about that. And now what we want to do is we want to pull this wiring harness back up through. There. So now we've got all our harnesses out here. And then there's a clip here. We want to release that. And then this pulls right off. And we'll just set that in there. Okay, now we want to get our punch for these 3 guys right here. Okay, we're going to try this. But you basically want to tap these. Again, you got one here, and one here. And you're going to tap them towards the front of the truck. Started to move, we're good. I sprayed these with a little bit of WD-40 first. Okay, now that we've got that, come around, you can see, and they'll just pull out. There's 2. And there's 3. So now what we're going to do, again, you're going to want to unplug this motor, and like everything else, you don't need to worry about where it was plugged in, and you're just going to wiggle this back and forth until it comes up. Now you've got this piece here, so you just want to set it aside, and then you're going to grab your Torx 20 for these bolts right here. There's 4 of them around the outside. Now this cap, you have to pull this cap off. Mine was rusted right on, as you can see, good old Canadian winter here. And I tried tapping from the bottom while this was still secured here, but I could not get it. So I ended up having to take it off anyways, which I would have had to do in the long run to do the next step. But you're going to want to take this off. I actually forgot to put a bolt back in here, which is why I'm doing this video again anyways. So I'm going to pull this motor off, and you're going to feed these through. So I'll undo those. And again, it's a Torx, a Torx 20, if you can see that. So Torx 20, we'll pull those out. One thing you're going to want to do, that I didn't do is before you take this off, because the motor is in the out position, is take a marker and mark this and this. I will do it once I get this off of here, because the first time I did this, I put it back together 180 degrees from where it needed to be. So I pulled the defrost wires out first, then I pulled this white Molex plug out, and then followed by the motor plug. Now all I've got is the puddle light and the mirror control, and I'll just slide those through. And now we have the motor. So we'll take it in and put it on the vise, and I'll show you what's next. Okay, so when I pulled this out the first time, this was really badly corroded in here. So this is where I took the WD-40, and I'm not going to do it in this case because I really don't need to. But what I did was put it on this vise, and I just basically laid WD-40 all in here and let it sit for 15 or 20 minutes. And then once I did that, I took a flat blade screwdriver and I put it in this side and started to pry around, and I was breaking that seal of rust. And then once I was able to do that, then I could tap on it with a hammer to get it the rest of the way off. Okay, so I've got it in the vise. You've let it sit for 20 minutes, half an hour. Now what you're going to want to do is, I'm just going to set this up here. There we go. There's a tab here, as you can see, and there's a tab here. Now, I worked my way around to free up the sides and such. So I kind of just put it in the vise and took a flat blade screwdriver that I could get in there, and I just worked it. And as you can see, this one's coming off easier now. But once I got it to move, it was pretty simple. So... and there we go. I mean, it's come off. Again, if you don't live in Canada or somewhere where there's lots of snow, you might be a lot better than I was. Snow and salt. So now we've got our motor. And the motor actually, if you pull it out, just comes off. And there's this gear. Now, I've read that some guys, these gears break. Obviously, mine wasn't broken, so I knew I was okay. Now, at this point, I went and plugged it in to the harness and tried the mirrors to see that, just to verify that this motor was spinning, and it was. So then I went to the next thing, and that's this, and it is really, really tough to see, but there's a couple of components here. So there is this retaining clip, this spring, then there's like a grease cap, and then there's two gears underneath here, and I don't know if you can see it, but there is, right in there, you can see that gear, nylon gear. And because I could see that and it looked like the teeth weren't stripped out of it, that's why I decided to go to the next step. So on this, you'll notice right here, I don't know if you will notice right here, there's three little indentations in this shaft. There's one there, there's one there, and there's one there. And there's 3 holes in this retaining ring. So after fiddling around, I figured I needed something to push in, and I didn't want that spring to go crazy on me. So I found a socket that would slide over that shaft, but that wasn't big or too big for this. And there was another tool, actually, I forgot to tell you about. But you're going to need a set of channel locks. So this is really where the vise comes in handy. So I looked to see approximately how far. I figured it was about 1/8 of a turn to get these to line up. So I slid this over. I pushed this in. And then I compressed the spring. Now, once I got the spring to there, this is where I grabbed the channel locks. And you want to watch that retaining ring right there. So now you can see I've moved that retaining ring. I backed off on this. Nope, I didn't get it. So how far out am I? Not far. So I compress it again. There, I should be there now. So now, when I release that, no, I'm still not there, eh? Close, very, very close. There we go. So now that now I release that, don't know why that's doing that, but I release this. There we go. Now you can see that spring and the retaining ring has just hit the floor. So again, one thing I forgot to do before we went this far, mark it, and you can see where I did. I marked it on, oh, there we go. You can see where I marked it on this side. So I marked it here, and I put a mark. I don't know if you can see it, but there's a mark on this base too, just to know where it came off. So you're going to pull the spring off, set it aside, and then you're going to pull this little grease cap off, set it aside. Now you can see that main drive gear. So this is where things get interesting. Now as you pull this out, you have to turn it. It's like almost like a lock. There. Okay. So we're going to put that there. Now, this is where she gets interesting. You'll see there's another retaining ring right here. So you're not going to pay attention to that. But down in here, you can see this. See how those two things fit together? Well, mine had come apart. So they fit together like that. And what I assumed happened was it was either opened or closed without the motor, and this clutch ring, whatever they want to call it, bounced on them and then never fully lined up to catch. And that's why the motor wasn't engaging. So once you get those to fit back together, then you're going to want to put some grease in there, which I'm going to do again. And then you're going to want to put the shaft back in. So what I'm going to do, then once you got that in there, you need to rotate it until it locks. And it will lock. There we go. Yeah. There. Okay, so I've put it back on the truck just to test. Now, obviously, we still got to put the spring back on, but there's a little spot where it has to sit on both sides, and then the screw hole. Okay, so now I'm going to just spray some fluid film in here. I really like this fluid film stuff. So put that on, and then you're going to put the spring on. Now, here's where things can get a little tricky. So, not so much tricky, but you just got to watch, or else you're going to be fighting yourself. So, you got to find that indentation, which this might show it better, but there's one of them. So, you just want to make sure that you're lined up, that you can go over them. So, to see how that slips over. So, get an idea of where that's got to sit. Put your spring on. Put this approximately where it needs to go. Grab your socket again. There we go. So, gonna get your channel locks on there. There you go. Twist that. Try and just twist that ring. Release it slowly. There you go. So your spring is back on, and now we can go to putting the motor back in. So now what we do is we take our motor. You want to pay attention to the terminals. Remember, they go towards the inside. Get it down there. You're going to take your cap. You're going to place your cap over. Give it a tap. And basically what you want to make sure is that these 3 holes are lined up that go back on. And now we can go and reinstall it. What I'm going to do here, I'm going to feed this puddle light through first. Then I'm going to feed the flat connector for the mirror. Then your motor needs to come through because it's the next biggest plug. And you basically want to push it up. This is where your needle nose pliers can come in handy too. Just be careful you don't break that plug. Come back around here. Pull it out. The Molex plug through. Pull it out, and then your defrost wires. Pull them all through, sit it down, and now we can throw these torque screws back in, and don't do what I do or did and forget them. See, we've got the 4 bolts back in there now. I've plugged the motor in just because I want to test it. Okay, a little snap, but I think it was just setting itself. So now we can put the base back on. Do this. Unplug that motor. Got the base here. Feed all the wires up through. And we're just going to give that a tap. Just give that a tap down. There we go. Now you can see it's tapped down. We can see through those holes. There you go. See through those holes. So we'll know our pins will go through. I always like to double check things after I do something. So now we can start to go the rest of the way here. We can tap these pins in. Come around to this side here. Okay, so we're all tapped in. Remember, we gotta feed this flat pin wire down here. Everything else, make sure your motor's plugged in. And now, this here, you can see these going like this. And then this comes over. And so now we've got the base on. Now we can get back to plugging the rest of the stuff in here. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is pull this white Molex plug through. And remember, it goes in right like that. So we're going to plug that in first. And then we're going to line up. What I did was I came over here and I looked at the top this time. There we go. You can see that. So I've got them partially set on, and then what I do is I take my flat blade and push down on the top. You'll hear it click, and then I come underneath here because I can use this to pry. There we go. And you'll see it's pried in. So again, now what we need to do, we'll grab our needle nose pliers, and these defrost wires do not matter where they go. So you just plug one in there. One in there. And again, it's a good idea because we've done a few things. Let's make sure that it's moving. The mirror's moving. We'll turn the key forward and make sure we have signals. We do. And let's make sure, the most important thing, that it swings in. So now it's swung in, and we will put the outside cover on, which is pretty easy. Just got to put this in, snap it back in, and you got to kind of hold this down, and the two hold each other on. So it's back on. I actually got that a little tighter this time. Again, we'll come around, and we're good to go. Hope it helped you out. Make sure everything's nice and tight, and good luck.